Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Wave the Brush, with me, your host, Kris, aka Mini Wargamer Kris, aka the Name Butcher, aka I'm all out of AKs. Wave the Brush, the most informative 120 minutes on the internet on the wargaming lifestyle. We'll talk about painting, terrain, conversions, and everything under the sun. Usually for anybody who's brand new to this show, it's usually a lot of painting talk, as well as a lot of what's under the sun, meaning no topics are barred. We'll talk about anything, life, movies, anything. Who knows? Who knows what realms we'll go into, but that's usually part of the fun, I think. So if you're a first-time viewer and you've never you are attending live, you can ask your questions over in the wherever the chat comments are, and you can ask them there. And of course, you can also ask them at waythebrush.com. It's in the description below. Of course, you can also send me an email, Kris@miniwargaming.com. If you're watching after the fact, and and of course you send your email and you ask your questions and what have you. You can show off what you're working on, or ask whatever question. And there are no dumb questions, so feel free to ask. And of course, if myself is unable to answer it, the monkeys definitely will be able to answer, as well as a lot of the long-time viewers. They'll pretty much know my usual responses to a lot of the usual questions, and so they'll usually more than happy to help out as well. Of course, waythebrush.com, central hub of all this silliness. It's in the description. You can get links to the Instagrams, the Twitter. Twitter is usually when I usually announce if there's cancellations or anything like that, so it's always kind of good to have my Twitter. And of course, Discord. Discord's been a lot of fun. Basically, it's a lot of, everybody coming in, and usually hang out on that a lot and just talk with everybody. And of course, we have many little segments all over the place there. Let's just take a quick look. So you can see Discord. Of course, you can see, got all sorts of channels. Welcome, general, questions, future questions, Patreon paint along, work in progress gallery, all sorts of stuff in there. All sorts of channels, all sorts of fun to be had in there. And I usually am in there quite a bit in the day. So, yeah, feel free to ask questions in there. Join us there. It's a lot of fun. Of course, it gets kind of weird in some areas of it. But again, it's kind of like the show. Just gets kind of weird in some places. So, and of course, waythebrush.com also has links to the show. There's one page that's set up and has both feeds, Twitch or YouTube. It's the only two that I usually do this simultaneously to. And of course, it also has t-shirts. Well, I'm not wearing one today, actually. I'm not wearing a Way of the Brush shirt today. I'm actually wearing a Team Greenleaf shirt. Adam was kind enough to get me a green leaf shirt, Team Greenleaf. And of course, it's got my name on the back, which is kind of cool. So yeah, thanks to Adam for that. And of course, yeah, part of Team Greenleaf. Part of Team Greenleaf, man. Like, what other team are you on? What team are you on? Like, come on. Team Greenleaf. Don't be silly. And of course, Way the Brush t-shirts. You can choose between, the normal kind of logo or the monkey logo. And of course, I've been toying around with another kind of idea, so that might be coming down the line soon enough. And of course, I want to thank my patrons, because without their support, a lot of these upgrades and stuff like that would not be possible. And yeah, of course, always a big thanks to them, as waythebrush.com actually wouldn't even really exist. I mean, new upgrades and stuff like that. Just always thanks to my patrons. So if you consider supporting me on Patreon, links are down below and also on waythebrush.com and all that stuff. And of course, because I always end up forgetting, big thanks to Guymere Alfer, aka Carl, aka Beer and Blood Bowl. That's his YouTube channel. Check him out. If you love yourself some beer and Blood Bowl, it's a lot of fun on his end of the spectrum. And of course, he took the time generously to create the email jingles that we all know and love and enjoy before every email segment. And yeah, so it's a lot of fun. Anywho, monkeys. Speaking of monkeys, I wasn't actually speaking of monkeys, but it's usually my usual segue into this segment. Ghost to Starman Deluxe, first wave of the brush of Spooktober. Spooktober? David Vaughn, sup Kris and monkeys, sup. Jim White, Kris, it has been at least 1 second since the stream start, and you haven't thanked Beer and Blood Bowl for an awesome music yet. Are you okay? Ha ha ha. Well, I did. Not, I did him last, but not least. Sir Peanut Butter, hello peeps. Grim, howdy y'all. Ben Ellis, hello Kris and monkeys. Grim's over on Twitch today. Or are you usually on Twitch? I think he's usually on Twitch. Ben Ellis, hello Kris and monkeys. Ram V, hello monkeys. Hey Kris. Derek Luterus, hello everyone. Shogun Ka, William Ka. You're not on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube. Or you're not on YouTube. Because you're on Twitch. I'm on YouTube. I think I'm on YouTube. Now you got me all worried. Now you got me wondering, is my stream on YouTube? I'm on YouTube, guys. You guys are just messing with me. Shane McKevitt, been gone for a while. Did Kris get a haircut? What's going on? I did get a haircut back in May. Cut my hair. So I've been maintaining this kind of do for a while. I'll probably maintain it for a while longer. I like it. It's kind of liberating. It's kind of interesting feeling the wind on your scalp. It's been a long time since I felt that. Aaron Siege greeting Kris and Monkey Crew. Knitfink, hello everyone. George Hintz, hey you. Hi you. Hi you. NorCal Todd, good morning Kris. Good morning fellow monkeys. Morning NorCal Todd. Shogun. Oh, okay, it's just YouTube being weird. YouTube being weird, yeah. And you know what? Like with YouTube, I mean, I like YouTube, but man, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, like they're constantly meddling with it, you know, constantly meddling with the player, constantly meddling with the site, making visual changes here and there, and moving buttons around, and like, you know, I just don't understand like why they're constantly meddling with it, you know? If it works, and it works well, and people like it, like, why mess with it? You know, like, why mess with it? I don't know. Ben Ellis. Oh, Warlord finally finished. Finally finished. Did you get it? Is it in your hands now, or is it just, it's finished and it's going to get shipped? Because I imagine the shipping alone, oof. Imagine shipping a fully painted Warlord. I mean, you got to take care of that when it's getting shipped, right? Because it's assembled, and it's cleaned, and it's got really nice paint jobs. Man, I'd be nervous. Not to make you nervous, Ben, but I'd be nervous. Ka King, real item audio on Twitch. Whoa, what? Real item. Tyem. Oh, real time. YouTube has real-time chat. Yeah, I get both. I get both Twitch and YouTube chats. I'm looking at them both right now. I have a program that shows them both at me, throws them both at me. Nice big bold letters so my old eyes can see it properly. Ebb and Flow, blah. What's up, everybody? Ebb and Flow, blah. 386, blah. What is the meaning behind that, Ebb? Ebb and Flow, blah. Why is that your handle? Blah. Blah. Congo. Thinking of Iron Hands with the upgrade sprues for armies on parade board. Cool. You gonna make like Iron Hands like display board? I seen a really cool one on, was it Instagram? It might have been Facebook. One of the two. It was an Eldar like board. The guy has all his Eldar, and it looks like everybody's on jet bikes or, you know, on tank or whatever. And it's like water. It's a 2x2 square, and the craft are coming across, and you can see like the waves in the water. And I thought that was a really great idea. I thought that was really cool. I'm pretty sure I shot it a like or heart or one of the two, but either way, I thought it was really cool because, you know, like, you know, you imagine like the jet craft, right? And then you got like the wake of water behind them, and all the craft are doing that, and it looks really, really cool. So, you know, thumbs up for that guy because it's a really good idea. But Car King, I'm going to go down to my basement and spray stuff. All right. You do that, Car. Derek Looters, how would you make a Zone Mortalis terrain on a budget? Well, there's a few ways you can do it. I know Death Ray Designs. They produce some really great Necromunda and, you know, like sci-fi kind of dungeon crawler kind of sections that, you know, I don't know if, I'm not 100% sure if they do like a whole board or if it's walls they can rearrange. But doing like a Zone Mortalis board, I mean, on a budget, I mean, like if it depends on how big you want to go. Death Ray Designs, I know they have. I don't know if they have a Zone Mortalis. You have to look it up. But go to Death Ray Designs, and he's got the MDF, you know, laser cutout stuff, and he does really great designs and stuff like that, and he does some really innovative things with the MDF, and like, you know, getting just certain shapes to occur within the MDF, which is, you know, really quite clever. Otherwise, I mean, to do it on a budget, I mean, you know, you get yourself some insulation board, you know, go to Home Depot, get yourself an MDF board, and with the styrofoam, you cut it into wall sections, you know, you get yourself some foam board and maybe some plastic card, use whatever GW bits you have on hand, and, you know, you just make the walls. Are there any templates out there for making walls, like, you know, yourself, that are, you know, very close to the Zone Mortalis? I'm gonna have to say I don't know. I don't think so. I've never seen them. I don't think I've ever seen a Zone Mortalis like handmade. I've only ever seen, obviously, the Forge World one, right? But these days, I'm usually not looking for, you know, a lot of custom terrain, you know, custom table type stuff. Just, you know, whenever I'm in the mood, I end up finding this stuff. But usually, no, I'm not, you know, browsing the internets. A big one I used to go to all the time for terrain projects, and I'm pretty sure the site is still up, is Terra Genesis. That was a really good site. And that was basically kind of like a Wikipedia of terrain projects, and basically anybody can post their projects to it. And so it's got an extensive library of just, you know, made up stuff all over the place, from fantasy stuff to sci-fi, everything in between. And it's really, really great resource. It's definitely, it's always in my bookmarks. And, you know, if you're looking for some terrain ideas or even some techniques in terrain, definitely the first place I would send somebody. But yeah, but otherwise, yeah, Zone Mortalis, I mean, it's, you know, it's little walls, about yay high, right? About 4 inches high, maybe more, you know, cut to a certain shape. If you want to throw some foam core, like bulkheads and stuff like that, by all means, you know, otherwise it's going to be a lot of work. Doing it on a budget usually means not spending a lot of money, which means it's usually going to take you more time. For myself personally, if I was going to embark upon that kind of project, the first thing I always ask myself is, what is my time worth? And if my time is more valuable than actually sitting down and actually, you know, creating this by hand, I'll just buy the parts, or I'll just buy the kit, or I'll just buy the model itself, right? So that's usually the way I operate. So I don't know about yourself. If you've got unlimited time, then by all means, right? Vasily Shimko. Oops, comment jumped on me here. Hi, Kris and Monkeys. Just wanted to say hi. No shit posting today. None? Really? You lie. You lie, Vasily. You lie. Yuri Lopez. Hello, Monkeys and Kris. All in caps except my name, which has a smaller K, which means the cap lock is on. And he didn't mean to do that. Either way. Hello, Yuri. Aaron Seach. Spooktober WTF. 1st October. It's Orktober. For all us wargamers, we know it as Orktober. Any of us in the wargaming 40K aspect of things, or Games Workshop side of things, I guess. It's October. Ripley D just woke up. Sorry I'm late. I'm not sure why people feel the need to apologize. Don't apologize. I mean, you know, it's not like I'm sitting here taking attendance. It's not like, all right, who else is here? You know. Yeah, I need a proper prop. All right, you know. Oh, Ripley's late. Oh, Ripley's late. Here we go. You know. Although maybe I should start taking attendance. Maybe. No, come on. Who's got time for that? I ain't got time for that. Vasily, Kris, you got to grow sideburners. Sideburns or sideburners? Because sideburners, like, you know how like they have like the beer hat, right? And it's got the 2 beer cans and he feeds into your mouth kind of thing. So would sideburners be in that similar vein where you put on the hat, but you got like 2 little hot plates sitting here cooking? Oh man, you'd probably get singed, right? I mean, guaranteed if it moved, you know what I mean? Like you hurt yourself, actually. I don't know. That sounds kind of scary now, actually. I don't know if I agree with any of that. But I gotta grow why do I gotta grow sideburns? You know what? Okay, here's a little thing I will share with you guys as kind of embarrassing as it is, but I will share it with you guys. I lived in Quebec in northern Canada. It's predominantly French speaking in the cities, and I went to a school, McDonald Cartier, it's on the outskirts of Montreal. I lived on the outskirts of Montreal, and I went to school there, and it was like my grade 8, but in Quebec they do the junior high thing, so it was junior high, and so yeah, it was grade 8. I went there, and because it was a school that had a lot of English speakers and had French speakers, but it had a lot of English speakers, so a lot of the English kids went to this school, and you know, I mean, first initially going there, you know, it was kind of awkward, and you know, I mean, I'm grade 8 in a new place, and you know, kids, and it's a high school setting, you know, I was like kind of whatever, right? Because typically, like in Ontario, usually grade 7 and 8, you're still in elementary school. I know in some states it's not like that. You go into junior high, right? But in Ontario, 7 and 8, and usually the grade 8 year in elementary school prepares you for grade 9, which is high school. You know. And so I was thrown from grade 7 into grade 8, and bang, you know, oh my God, you know, this is a whole new thing. So I was really awkward and really nervous, you know, the first couple months. And one kid who used to ride the bus in my area, and it used to be quite a bus ride going to school, and he used to tease me a lot for whatever reason, bullying, right? And at the time, my hair was more, you know, again, this is kind of embarrassing, but it was more mullet-like. So I had longer hair in the back and was shorter on top and the sides, right? But otherwise, I was, you know, and of course, I was entering puberty at the time too, right? So, of course, you know, you're getting hair all over the place, and that's when, you know, boys start developing more hair in the face and head region and such. And so I ended up having quite a bit of sideburn going on. And this one boy who used to pick on me, and I think he was a grade or 2 older than me. But he never got physical because he was about the same size as me, and I'm pretty sure I'd kick his ass. And nobody really kind of, you know, got into a lot of fistfights with me either, you know, because I was bigger than a lot of the kids that were older than me. But anyway, the kid used to call me Elvis. That's where I'm getting to here. The kid used to call me Elvis. And it started off him teasing me initially. You know, it was out of, you know, I was out of, you know, out of malice, really, right? Bullying. And by around, you know, halfway through the year, everybody was calling me Elvis. The whole school was calling me Elvis. I was known at school as Elvis. Why everybody at the school was calling me Elvis, I have, you know, like why it was like all of a sudden I was Elvis at the whole school. But it wasn't like, you know, kids were making fun of me, because I'm pretty sure I did end up kicking a couple kids' asses. And then, but everybody still called me Elvis. And it was like, you know, kids were walking past me, hey Elvis, you know, like nice and everything. And everybody talked to me, and everybody was really nice to me. even though that the name started out as something that was, you know, a bullying thing, right? And he was making fun of me, and then, you know, it ended up becoming something that I was, you know, known for, right? And so yeah, I was Elvis in junior high. I listen to Elvis actually, but not for that reason. Just because good music. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Benella, shipping is going to be 3 boxes at 90 pounds. So fingers crossed. 90 pounds for 3 boxes, right? Not 90 pounds per box, because I'd lose my mind. Still, that's a lot, man. Holy moly, that's a lot. 90 pounds. 90 pounds. I mean, that's, you just basically double that, and that's what it costs Canadian. That's what Canadian Canuck bucks. In Canuck bucks, 90 British pounds, you just basically double it, and that's a rough estimate on the exchange. I mean, yes, you can go and hit the exchange site and see what it exactly is, but a rough calculation. Ramby, I'm working on Night Haunt. What do you monkeys work on this fine evening? What are the monkeys working on this fine evening? I know Ben's just sitting around waiting for his Warlord Titan to get shipped, but yeah, what are you guys working on? I know a lot of people don't really watch the show. They more or less listen to the show as something playing in the background. And I'm just kind of curious, like, what are you working on when you're listening to me? Like, how can you even concentrate on what you're listening or what you're doing when you're listening to me ramble on and, you know, make dumb jokes and, you know. Dr. Zantos, hello, Dr. Zantos. Shane McKevitt, how to deal with painting burnout, particularly when commission painting, when you can't really just take a break from painting altogether. Well, it's been a long time since I was a commission painter, and I was actually just talking to Adam about this yesterday, and yeah, you like, it was 2000. 2000 was when I was last doing commission painting, and you know, so it's been a very long time since I've done it. Heck, some of you guys weren't even born then. And painting, the painting burnout with a commission, man, just don't have the whole project in front of you. Like we talked about this last week, and I'll mention it again. Don't have all your stuff in front of you. Don't have the whole, you know, the whole commission out in front of you. Take the commission in chunks. Work on it in, you know, bite-sized portions. You know, don't have it in front of you, because then that gets overwhelming. You start thinking, oh, I got this to do. I'm doing this, but I still have all these projects to do, right? You know, just work on it in bite-sized chunks. If you're a commission painter, then I'm sure you're used to just kind of sitting down and getting to work. Don't even think about it. You know, oftentimes don't have a lot of distractions. I personally paint to music. I don't have podcasts on or movies. I know a lot of painters. A lot of people are working on their models. They have these things in front of them and they're playing while they're doing the hobbing. I'm not sure how they do it, because one kind of wants your attention and the other, you know, like both want your attention. And so your brain is fighting between the two kind of thing, right? And so I don't understand. Whereas music is more enjoyed on a subconscious kind of level. And I find it easier for me to shut my brain off and, you know, enjoy the music while I'm doing manual labor kind of things. And yeah, so but as far as commission painting and fighting the burnout as a commission painter, I'm afraid it's been a long time, and I think once I was getting the burnout, because I mean, like me personally, I mean, I can't do very repetitive things very often, and you know, for very long. I get bored, and I need more stimuli. I need fresh input, you know, and you know, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much why I stopped doing commission painting. And I'm not advising you to stop doing commission painting, because you might enjoy it, you might like it, and you might be depending upon the income, right? So I don't want to advise doing that, but, you know, you got to evaluate, right? But otherwise, yeah, that'd be the biggest one for me, is just not having everything in front of me. Just, you know, if you're working on, say, you know, 100 models, just take 5 at a time, 10 at a time, you know? I wouldn't go more than 10, 5 or 10, somewhere around that, right? And work on them at a time. Bring them to a particular level, poop, put them away. Grab the next batch, right? Batch painting, right? That's what everybody calls batch painting. Essentially that. You got to adopt that kind of mentality, right? But otherwise, Shane, yeah, I'm afraid as far as being a commission painter and fighting the burnout, I mean, like, I've been fighting burnout for a long time, and usually, me personally, it's finding new challenges in painting. You know what I mean? Like when somebody asks me, you know, for the 100th time, how do you paint black? And oftentimes I will spit different answers out because sometimes I'll think about a different way to do it, or, you know, a different technique or different products, or, you know, what have you. And so I always try to keep it fresh, and I always try to keep it interesting, and that reflects in the quick tip videos. So like, even though like painting red has been shown many times, I've tried to show painting red many different ways for people who might want to, you know, do it a particular different way. You know, some people would say, well, that makes more sense. That, not so much. That, oh, I can follow that. You know what I mean? And so it's that kind of thinking. And, you know, as a commissioned painter, you can't really quite do that, because you can't really venture artistically, because it's the person who's commissioned you to do a piece. You pretty much have to follow their direction. If they want a particular color scheme, you got to do that particular color scheme. You can't go venturing off into doing other color schemes on the models, right? If he wants it a certain level, well, you can't go venturing off doing different techniques and, you know, and you know, bringing it down, bringing it up. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be consistent. And so that's, again, why I don't do commission painting, because it's repetitive. That consistency, which is good, but it's just kind of mind numbing for me. I mean, some people like Ash, like I watch Ash assemble and, you know, prep and then get the models painted and then do it for a whole thing. Like I watched him do Space Wolf Army, a proper 2,000 point Space Wolf Army. I think it was 2,000 points, somewhere around that. It was a lot of models, and he had it assembled and painted in like 2 days. Like 2 days to do 2,000 points. I was mind blown. I was like, well, I mean, and now I'm not talking like these were Golden Demon paint jobs. They were tabletop paint jobs, but it was done. And that's more than I can say for my army, because I mean, my army, I've been working on it since '97, and there's still a lot of models sitting there in primer, you know. So I was, you know, impressed by that ability, you know what I mean, and just, you know, just sit there and just hammer through it. And I mean, like, you know, he used to work for Games Workshop and, you know, working in the stores, and that's the kind of thing they had to do. They had to just hammer through things. Me, I mean, like, if I was, you know, more ingrained into that kind of procedural type stuff, maybe, but wasn't free-flowing kind of guy. You know, I consider myself an artist, and, you know, I'm always looking for the next challenge. I'm always looking for the next spark of inspiration, you know, and yeah, that's where I'm at. So unfortunately, Shane, I don't know if that was terribly helpful, but yeah. Twitchy Kranos, hey everybody. Hello, Twitchy. Ben Ellis. Oh, I found a site with 3D files for loading things, but to print them is about 4 or 5 times as much, so not worth it. If you have your own printer, it might be an idea. Link in Discord chat general. Okay. Emperor's Champion, hi. Hi. Anthony B. Are we talking about meat yet? No, we're not talking about meat yet. Why? Were we talking lots about meat last time? Oh, were we talking about, was it last week we were talking about hunting? Something like that? Anyway. Dr. Santos. It's possible that this has been asked before, but how would you go on painting a Vermintide 2 style Chaos Warrior Knight 2 style? Oh, Vermintide 2 style Chaos Warrior. I was like, Vermintide 2 style? What's a 2 style? Excuse me. 2 style. I can't stop. 2 style. Chaos Warrior Knight. I'm not familiar with Vermintide Chaos Warriors. I'll have to look it up now. Vermintide 2. Hold on here, folks. Vermintide 2 Chaos. That's not how you spell chaos. Chaos Warrior. And let's have a look at the images. I don't know. I get a lot of things coming back at me here. Like, what in particular are we talking about here? What exact, like, I see things that look like Nurgle. Yeah, we're gonna have to be specific as what you're talking about. How would you paint it? I mean, if all the Marines, if all the Chaos Warriors are Nurgle-like, just paint them Nurgle-like. I mean, this one picture I'm looking at, like, it looks like his armor is predominantly metals, and he has pockmarks where it's a deeper brown in the pock, but then the surrounding area of like the indentation in the armor is more oranges, but it looks like there's runoff. You know what I mean? Like he's been in the weather, and you know what I mean. So, yeah, I mean, if that's the kind of thing you're talking about, I'm not sure, but yeah. How'd you go painting Vermintide 2 style Chaos Warrior Knight? Yeah, it's kind of vague. I think we'd have to have a little bit more explanation as to what exactly we're talking about in that instance, you know, as far as technique is concerned. But I mean, that's all it looks like to me in the one picture I'm looking at, and it looks like he's just covered in metal, but it's just a ton of pock marks, and it's just, you know, it's just rust. It's weathering. I mean, nothing too extraordinary. It's not like any kind of wacky colors or anything. Shane McKevitt, what do you think of the new orc buggies? Love them. They're very cool. I like them. Holy man, I'm still kind of way behind here. We're gonna have to move up a few here. Ramv, Kris, your right mustache is more fuzzy and darker than your left. What? My left and right is more fuzzy. Well, you know what? Today, actually, I didn't. Usually, every day I kind of like add a little bit more wax, but because it's Saturday, I usually don't. And I usually like I've gone from using different kind of product, and I've actually switched to using proper mustache wax from the Southern company in like Georgia. Fire. It was recommended by somebody. I can't remember now. Oh, I can't remember who it was. But anyway, yeah. Looks fuzzy. I don't know. Looks fairly symmetrical. As symmetrical as most human beings' faces can be. Quit picking on my mustache. Picking on my mustache is only going to encourage me to shave it off. Lewis, just saw Space Hulk Tactics trailer before watching this video. It looks great. Yes, it does look great. That's Space Hulk. Space Hulk is always going to be dear to me because Space Hulk is what got me into this hobby. Really. I mean, like, my cousins introduced me to it, like, this whole aspect, but it wasn't until Space Hulk that it was, like, really cemented, and I was getting right into the whole 40K thing and, you know, stuff like that. It was really my first, exposure to 40K things. So, yeah. Derek Luderus, thanks, Kris. My hobby time is limited, so maybe just saving up and buying might be easier. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Like it's how, like, you know, what is your time worth, right? I mean, you know, and you know, do you have the time to put this whole project together, or is it just easier to just kind of, you know, just to buy it and paint it? You know, I mean, you know, yeah. Aaron Seach working on some Storycast and new band that will make its first appearance at Adepticon 2019, Pedro and the Knights. Very cool. David, I just painted my first 40K miniature, just a North boy. I need to finish his skin and teeth, and then I'll send you a picture to critique. Cool. Thank you, David. Awesome. Look forward to it. Anthony B, I'm working at work on my laptop. Might continue painting tomorrow, watching football. What football's on today? There's no football on today. Or are you talking soccer? Diego Flores at Kris. Hello. Wanted to say what type of brush you recommend to paint the old epic armies. A particular brush? Any brush that you currently have. I mean, as far as like old epic miniatures are concerned, I mean, like there's nothing wrong with using Citadel brushes. I use them all the time. I like them. And there's nothing wrong with them. I mean, people crap on them all the time, but I mean, it's GW. There's gonna be haters anyway. There's haters, right? And you know, I mean, for most part, most of Citadel's brushes, they're sable hair blends, and you know, they stand up as long as you take care of them. Army Painter's got some great brushes. They got sable and synthetics. Again, really good brushes. Some really good detail brushes there, and you know, good prices. Citadel, you end up paying just a little bit more, but you know, that's with everything Citadel. You pay a premium price tag on a lot of their stuff. The paints, right? You pay a premium on the paints. So Army Painter is a good one. Of course, you go, you know, I mean, we can get into the whole brush topic, you know, like Winsor Newton and Artis Opus and Da Vinci and Raphael, but I mean, judging by the question, as far as, you know, like what kind of brushes you should be using when painting epic models, I don't think it really matters. I think you'll be fine with Army Painter brushes. You can go into any kind of art supply store, proper art supply store. Don't go to any of the big box ones because you'll pay their premium prices. Go to a proper art supply store. Go into the watercolor section of brushes, the brushes designed for watercolor, and look at their really small brushes, like the ones, the zeros, and stuff like that. And those are more akin to the good brushes that you're going to find that everybody's arguing over anyway. So, you know, you might as well just cut through all the crap, go there, go into the watercolor brushes, because the watercolor brushes, you most likely will want, I mean, you can go with synthetics, especially if price is an issue. But I prefer sable, but I mean, that's just because I'm nitpicky. I mean, you know, I know there's a lot of painters out there who paint with synthetics and do fantastic work, you know, but for a lot of my kind of techniques and stuff like that, like I like to do, I prefer a nice sable. I prefer the draw of it. But again, you know, just as paints, brushes, it's all subjective. You know what I mean? There is no right answer. There is no right answer. Some people say, oh, Citadel brushes are complete crap. Don't buy Citadel. They're crap. No, they're not. They're good. I get them. I use them all the time. I've been using them for years. You just got to take care of them. Now, how do you take care of your brush? With this. Masters brush soap. Or just brush soap. It doesn't have to be Masters. This is the stuff I prefer and I use and I like. But otherwise, yeah. And it's just a big old tub. It's dry soap. Just water. Just, you know. This is brand new. That's why I'm sitting here looking at it. And plus two, I love the smell. I love the smell of soap. Actually, I was going to shoot something with this today, actually. Not today? Maybe this weekend. I was going to shoot something. Not really miniature related, but more just brush care related. Anyway. But that's the big one, is getting brush soap. Because it doesn't not matter what brush you buy. If you don't take care of it, it ain't going to last anyway. And if you don't really know proper brush habits that will keep your brush in better condition in the long term, proper brush techniques that will keep your brush life longer in the long term, then yeah, you're going to be going through brushes and you're going to go, yeah, this Citadel brush, it was garbage. Oh, this Army Painter brush, that was garbage. I bought Winsor Newton. There was like $20 a brush and it was garbage because you destroyed it right away, right? So it's not the brush. It's often the artist. So take care of your brushes and they'll take care of you. All right, I'll end the show right there. Where am I here? So hopefully, Diego, that answered your question. Hopefully it helps demystify some of the things. Ben Ellis, this evening I'm looking into airbrushes, but I'm trying to find something I can grow with, as I found in life. If you buy the right, you buy once, and it's cheaper in the long run. It's cheaper in the long run, yeah. Nice. Not sure where to start. Well, me personally, I mean, I always recommend Badger. Not because, have any kind of particular relationship with them, but I've been using, like, I've when I started getting serious with airbrushing, which has only been about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I started on Badger Patriot 105, and it's a good brush as long as you take care of it. As long as you take care of it, it's fine. It operates just fine. And the brush I use, and you see in a lot of the videos, and I'm using a Patriot 105, that's that first brush. That's that first brush. You take care of that, it will take care of you. And my brush is spotless. It's spotless. In the interior cup, spotless. Needles, interior nozzle, a little dirty in there, but otherwise it's good. It's been a while since I actually ran it through the ultrasonic. Haven't felt the need to. Because I go through a very thorough flushing process And yeah, and I take care of the brush. Take care of the brush. I mean, you know, it seems elementary, but some people, they don't seem to grasp it, you know? G squared. Hey, Kris and monkeys. Hey, G squared. Disco Duke. Hey, all. Only a fleeting visit as I'm off out. I'm off out. I'm off out. I'll catch up on the episode later. Later, dude. Dr. Santos was meaning the big armored dude. In the game, they're called Chaos Warriors when they're obviously Chaos Knights. I like the worn rusted armor look and want to try painting it one day. Yeah, it's not terribly complex, dude, Doctor. Yeah, I mean, I'm still looking at like the Chaos Knight, right? I mean, there's a big Chaos dude I see. He's holding like this big axe, and he's got he looks like a Knight of Nurgle is what he looks like. Let's see here. Where's it? Oh, that's an orc. That ain't Chaos. Yeah, I don't quite see any pictures of Chaos. I type in Chaos Knight, Chaos Warrior. Okay, Chaos Knight. Yeah, it's still looking the same, dude. Yeah, I mean, like, you're gonna have to tell me what exactly you're talking about. Like, as far as, like, what particular thing. I mean, like, upon my image search, it looks like a pretty straightforward metallic rusted scheme. It's just weathering. Just lots and lots of weathering. Yeah. Now, on the model, it's very tight. And, I mean, on a, 2-inch high model, that is not going to translate very well. You know what I mean? Unless, of course, you're doing it for display. In which case, somebody's going to really, visually look at it and inspect it and, play across all the surface and all the texture. Then, yeah, you'll want to go to that kind of level. But otherwise, it's not entirely necessary to bring it to that kind of level, especially if you're only painting 2-inch high models. That level of detail is not going to translate onto that little model. Unless you're doing a display. If you're doing it for an army, you're just going to drive yourself crazy trying to do that. There's faster shorthand ways of achieving that look without, going to that extreme. Shane McKevitt, episode 222. It looks fairly symmetrical. G squared, episode 222. Hey, you, quit picking on my mustache. Yeah. Ripley D. Hey, Kris, can you talk about brush maintenance for a second? I can. And I think I did a moment ago. I don't have like soap or stuff for straightening the bristles, and I don't understand any of it. Okay, so really quickly here. Okay, you got your soap, right? And I would recommend this. This tub here was like 10 US, right? I just had the wife pick it up for me at Hobby Lobby yesterday. And I wanted this actually bigger one because reasons, which will become apparent if I get around to filming my little thing I want to talk about. Anyway, so you get yourself the brush soap. Now there are liquid brush soaps, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they're more designed towards artist brushes, where basically artist has a whole bunch of the big brushes, right, like the big 1 inch and 2 inch stuff like that. They have it in their jar and they're just kind of, you know what I mean, and it's that kind of purpose, right? Whereas this is more deliberate, smaller type brush, and they have one that is smaller than this, and I normally use, and you've probably seen in some videos where I'm using my brush soap. Anywho. Okay, so this is for regular bristle brushes. This isn't for airbrushes. This is just for regular bristle brushes. In a nutshell, and of course I've explained this in quite a few videos, and I do have a few videos in the vault, in my Wargaming's vault, explaining this in detail. But in a nutshell, okay, you have your soap. I don't really have a brush on hand here. All my brushes are over there. You guys don't know where I'm pointing, but anyway, we'll pretend this is my brush. Okay, so after a painting session, or sometimes I'll do this between dry brushing, because dry brushing beats the pigments into the bristles. And say, for example, I was dry brushing something, say something with metallics, and then I want to switch to white, or I want to switch to red, and I rinse my brush off, and then I start using that other color and dry brushing, you'll get color transference. You most likely will. So I often will clean my dry brush between colors. Okay, kind of like an airbrush where you'll clean your brush between colors. You should. So I do it with my dry brushes, but otherwise it's at the end of the paint session. Grab my brush, and of course, the brush is wet, like heavy with water, and I'll run it through the soap, and I'll just kind of like, very gently. I'm not pushing down very hard. I'm not pushing, like, say for example, the bristles are right here, and this part is the furl, right? So we'll imagine this is the furl, and there's bristles here, right? I'll keep like this kind of distance from the surface of the soap, so I'm not letting the bristles bend under violent kind of action. I'm not pushing the furl into the soap. It's very gentle. And I'll run that water, and I'm not running over water, but there's water in the bristles. And then what I'll do is, once I got a nice little gather of soap on the bristles, I'll just take my hand, right? And I'll have a paper towel ready nearby. And in the palm of my hand, I'll just do like light semicircles, just with the bristles, not pushing the furl down into my hand, just with the bristles just touching my skin. And I'll do semicircles, I'll do up and down, side to side, and I'll just kind of and it'll lather up in your hand. Like shampoo, right? It'll just lather up. Then I rinse the brush off, okay? Look at the brush, inspect the hairs, and I will see, typically, that a lot of the pigment, and probably all the pigment, is gone from the bristles, okay? Then I'll dunk my brush into clean water, just give it a quick snap, just to remove most of the excess, but it'll still leave it damp with bristles. You've heard me often say just kind of like just damp bristles, or just, just with the bristles with dampness. And I'll run the brush once or twice through the soap, just to get a little bit of surface on the thing. And then with my fingertips, I will draw the bristles, and I will turn the brush like between drawing it through my fingers, and that will bring it to a fine point. You'll also pull off the excess amount of soap on the bristles as well, but this is the conditioning phase. You're conditioning the bristles to stay in that fine point. Then after that, I will set it down on its side to dry, and I'll leave it for like an hour or whatever. Especially if you only get to like paint say once a week, you do that, leave it for an hour, and then go and put your bristles bristle up, of course. Never bristles down, always bristles up. And store your brush like that. And if it's a fine detail brush and you still have your little plastic caps, then just gently put that plastic cap back on and stuff like that. And that's just basic general taking care of your brushes, your bristle brushes. A big thing I will mention for a lot of people is, if you're using Citadel paint pots, or any paint pots for that matter, because I know like there's Tamiya and there's Mr. Color and stuff like that, and they're paint pots, right? Never draw your brush right into the pot. Reason being is because sometimes you misjudge that depth, and you'll get paint up into the furl. Okay? And that's bad. That will shorten the life of your brush, getting paint into that area. That will shorten the life of your brush. You should only ever work at max, if you can help it, 3/4 of the way up the bristle length. That way you never run the risk of getting paint up into here. Eventually paint does get into there, but you are mitigating how much is getting in there over the span of the brush, life of the brush. So when you spend $20 on a good precision brush, take care of it, and it'll be there for you for many, many years. Many, many years. That's just one of the things. Of course, a lot of people, when they rinse their water, I see some people, they rinse the water, and it seems like their brush is along the bottom of their container, and it's running along, and it's like the furl and the bristles, and you're just hurting the hairs. You're just hurting the hairs. Another one I hate when I see this is brushes stored with their points down, or they're sitting in the water like this. Oh my Lord, you're gonna need new brushes almost immediately. There is something I'm going to show. Actually, I plan to film, because I do have a few examples of it in some of my older brushes. Something I'm going to show, which is restoring points on brushes. Yeah, and I'll just leave it at that. Because you get some brushes, even some old sables, and the body will stay nice and straight, but the tip will kind of curve. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to fix that. So, but that's it. That's, who was that? That was Ripley? Ripley asked that? Yeah, in a nutshell, that's brush care. That's taking care of your brushes. Airbrushing, different matter altogether. That's a different beast altogether. Ben Ellis, episode 222, brushes, different strokes for different folks. I like that, Ben. I like it. We're gonna run with that. Brushes, different strokes for different folks. And you know what? That's really what it's all about, ain't it? Different strokes for different folks. I think I'm really way behind on my comments, aren't I? I might be. I don't know. I can't tell. Anywho. Yeah, we'll cut that off. Turn that off. Yeah. So, Ben, you win today's prize. My respect and love and admiration. Aaron Seach, Masters is fantastic. Works great in dumbass moments like when you are painting and get pulled away and forget to clean your brush. Yes, and that it's again, that's kind of what I'm going to touch on today. When you kind of do that kind of thing, yeah. Ben Ellis, dry brushes. I tend not to be too great cleaning mine, so I use a few for warm and few for cold colors. Ah, okay. So, now, yeah, because Ben, I noticed like from your painting, you do a lot of dry brushing, and that's actually, that's really kind of a good solution, really. Is having, you know, like say, for example, you have your dry brushing brushes for, say, metallics, and you have for cools, you have for whites, black, warms, you know. Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind spending a whole whack ton of money on brushes, I mean, especially if you, but I mean, like with dry brushing though, you actually don't really need good brushes, so you can buy like a lot of cheaper brushes, and you know, it'll work just fine for you. So yeah, interesting solution. I like that. I like that. Eldari Lamborghini, taking care of them brushes. Yes, I know. It's something I'm always harping on people about, but it's a common thing. I see so many people with so much potential in painting, and they're not taking care of their brushes, and they're wondering why they're not progressing. They're wondering, they're sitting there going, you know, oh man, I've been following this, and it's just, you know, like, I don't understand why I can't paint any better. Because there could be a few hindrances, you know, your tools, you know. A good mechanic can't service your car if his tools are constantly breaking, right? Same kind of thing. Eldari. So I got some extra money the past week, ordered my Artis Opus brushes, giving me the chance to go through all my old brushes. Yeah, no, keep your brushes. Keep the old brushes, because they're good for, like, okay, here's another one that I do for brush care. On the topic of brush care and not damaging your brushes, okay? Because not damaging your brushes is a preemptive step, right? Using soap is a reaction to a problem, but preemptive steps take care of things before they become problems, right? So I'm a bit of a preemptive kind of guy. And, with older brushes, okay, when I'm using paint pots like Citadel, okay, and I'm always drawing paint from the lip. I'm never dunking it into the brush or into the pot. I'm always drawing from that little lip. That was the other part of that explanation when I was going through with the paint pot things, is I always draw paint through the lip. And often I will use an older brush that's still in pretty good condition, good bristle strength, and you know, it still has good spring to it and everything. I will use an older brush to draw the paint, and then put it on my palette. It's always a common thing for me. And then I'll quickly rinse that off, and I'll set it on the side, and I'll leave it. And it's the brush's only duty is to draw that paint onto the palette. So sometimes if I need a big dollop, I'm not terribly worried if I get it up into the furrow, because again, it's an older brush. He's been demoted to other duties, and so yeah, and that's it. And I just use him to draw to the palette, and that's it. Rinse it off, and I set it aside. And then I go to my good base coating brushes, or my good detail brushes, or whatever brushes I'm using. Even if it's a dry brushing session, and I'm going to beat the crap out of my dry brush brushes, yeah, I'll still grab my draw brush and slap it on the palette. I'll use a separate brush, an old separate brush, to do that task. Just because I'm not too worried if I do get paint there, because again, the brush, he's been downgraded, right? He's not doing detail work anymore. This phase is to preserve your good brushes so they can still do detail work for you in the long run, right? Older brushes get relegated to dry brushing, drawing paint, you know, applying glue to a base, you know what I mean? They get relegated to all those other duties. So always hang on to your old brushes. Don't get rid of your or don't get rid of your old brushes. Keep them. Keep them. I need a sip of coffee. Holy crap, it's 1 already? We're 4 minutes to 1? Have I been talking this long already? Really? 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 56 minutes I've been talking. Wow. I can really blather on about subjects, can I? Johan Anderson, why bristles up if you're hanging them? Well, if you're hanging them, okay, if you have like a little stand that your brushes, sits on and it can just sit like that and it's sitting off the table surface, that's fine. And in fact, that's probably pretty good because, as I mentioned, I always leave the brushes to dry after painting sessions on its side. Why would you imagine I do that, right? I know a lot of you will know the answer. I know a lot of monkeys will know the answer, but some of you new people might not know. The reason for it is because when it's drying, it's less likely the moisture will rot the glue that often typically most premium brushes are built with a wood handle, metal ferrule. The bristles are often wound and then glued just a little bit on the ends in the base and inside the ferrule. Moisture will get through those bristles because that's just the nature of the paint. You want those bristles kind of like a candle wick. They'll just wick the moisture through. So it actually moisture does build up in here and it will rot the glue. Okay, it'll rot the wood, it'll rot the glue. I often leave it on the side because it's less likely that the moisture builds there, right? Because when you let it dry like this, the moisture is deliberately, because of gravity, will draw into here and rot this stuff, right? Storing it like this after drying sessions, and if it's off the table and you know what I mean, and it's not at any risk to fall, especially falling point down like that, if it's not any kind of risk like that, then sure, yes, store it like that, because that actually would be better because the moisture will draw out through the bristles more deliberately, which is probably the better way to store your brushes. But I don't see a lot of those devices around. I often just store my bristles point up, right? Never point down because, well, if you store it point down, you're just going to end up crushing the bristles and putting a big kink in them, and that's why you don't store them bristles down. But if it's on a rack and it's not touching the surface, then yeah, I mean, it's going to be fine, obviously. Matthew Dammy, Kris, how do you paint cold? Not necessarily snow, but just cold and dampness on skin and clothing. Well, that's obviously, you're looking at the effects of cold, and that's what you're trying to convey. So, like, for example, like Dark Commission, he had the Captain Ahab, right? And he's a sailor, right? He's out on the Atlantic, and it's cold, right? So how does he look when it's cold? Well, his nose is going to get red, either from alcohol or from cold weather. His cheeks will be flushed because either from alcohol or cold weather or the mixture of the two, right? Having obviously the bundled clothing and stuff like that. I mean, it's obviously the effect. How do you paint the cold, right? Now, how do you paint something that maybe is, freezing, like a person's freezing? Well, then, obviously you can throw like little observational things, like if a person's cold, right, their lips start to change color, the eyes start to change color, the skin changes color, you know what I mean? Like all these observational things. That's how you'd paint cold, is just from the observations, So I think that's about the best way. So, if you're looking to emulate that kind of effect on a tabletop thing, it's kind of hard, that's really more for kind of bigger pieces, display. I mean, you can do it on a Space Marine, showing a Space Marine's face who's cold, like he's suffering from hypothermia. Sure, you could, I mean, it's going to be conveyed properly, I don't know, but you could do it, yeah. But otherwise, it's the effects. You're looking to paint the effects of what cold does to a person. Now, a cold, like an orc who's suffering from frostbite, what does that look like? Who knows? Really, it's up to your imagination. I mean, you can draw from logical things and then, infer, but otherwise, it's up to you. I mean, do orcs' lips go blue when they're cold? Probably not. Maybe they go purple. Maybe they go deeper green, I mean, like, who knows, right? It's completely fantasy. So whatever suggestion you think of, you're not going to be wrong because it's completely made up, Just kind of like when the question is, well, what do you color orc blood? Orc blood's fake. I mean, it's made up. It can be any color you want it to be. It can be from near black to bright red. Hell, why not blue? Why not blue? Why not green? Right? Emperor's Champion. Broken fingers are a problem. Broken fingers are a problem. Do we have broken fingers? Ben Ellis. Old brushes are good for effects like rust. Yes, I often will use older brushes for pigments. And when applying pigments onto a model surface, yeah, I'll use older brushes for that, because it's often that back and forth stippling action, which will just, you know, constantly just keep the brushes just bending and stuff, right? So, yeah. Nathaniel, hey guys, just returned from my local GW store. What's today's topic? And have emails been read yet? No, emails have not been read yet. We are past one. I probably should get to an email. In fact, yeah, we probably will in a moment here. Ruin Bane E. Woot, made the stream again. Woot. Johan Anderson, a wire in a brush handle and magnets on lamps. Sure, yeah. I mean, you know, that's a lot of post-processing, sure, you know, but whatever works for you, man. Yeah. If that's the best way for you to store your brushes, and, you know, have them right there and just whatever, go right ahead. By all means, carry on. And if that preserves your point and everything like that, you know, all the better. In fact, write me an email and give me pictures of your workspace and the workflow, and you know what I mean. And that sounds like an excellent way for anybody who wants to do that in their workflow. That would, I think, would be helpful. Because if you find it helpful and it helps you get your painting done and helps you preserve your brushes, by all means, please share, right? Because it's like I said, it is a better way to store your brushes, right? Having them point down. I mean, especially when they're still drying, right? That's better. In theory. Because, I mean, like, gravity's pulling on that moisture, and the moisture is drawing through the tips of the bristles, and you know what I mean? Like, and you should, because, again, like I said, when it's drying on the side, you're running the risk of rot. That's the only reason I leave them on their sides, just so the brushes don't rot faster. Storing them like this right away after washing them, you're increasing your odds of rot. You might never get it, but I have older brushes that where the ferrule just kind of fell right off from the brush, and, you know, there was nothing wrong with it. Just all of a sudden one day just came right off because the moisture rotted the glue, the binder. Nathaniel, Kris, that's why you should use brush caps. This way you can store them with your brush down without damaging. No. Even with the brush cap, why would you want to even store your brushes bristles down? Why would you want to store like in a cup? But yes, I always do. If you've looked at my, well, I mean, no, I can't. I mean, if you've looked at my workspace at work, all my brushes have their caps on them, even the big ones that had caps. Yeah, I still leave them on. Yeah, but I never store my bristles down. No, because eventually, because for example, you can have that cap on there, and then throw it into its cup holder or whatever. If you're using an old cup to store them in, you throw it in there. One, you could either apply too much force, or the continual force of it constantly doing that plastic tube will split, and then eventually it will just end up sitting resting on the bristles. Two, through the force, you could end up sending that cup further up the furrow, where it ends up splitting the plastic anyway, and it'll end up moving as it falls and will end up hitting the bristles. There's no reason to store your brushes with your bristles down, other than, as Johan suggested, Johan, little magnet, boonk, and storing them like that. And they're not even touching, and the likelihood of them falling is like almost zero, right? Because the magnet is not all of a sudden just going to lose, magnetism and fall, right? I mean, it's going to stay there, and so, it'll stay. So, for example, like, I had a paint rack right here, or my lamp, right? Because because often those lamps have metal shades, and I have a bunch, like my metal lamps at work, I have a bunch of magnets sitting on them just for projects, and I just need them, and I say, my magnet, you know what I mean? But I often don't attach magnets to my brushes, just not something I do. I don't feel it necessary. If it helps with the flow, you know, it helps you with your painting and your workflow, by all means, do it, you know. I mean, who am I to stop anybody from that kind of thing? Yeah. But I can't remember where I was going with this. But yeah, don't do that. Even with the caps on, it just, even then, you know, with the cap on and you're putting it and you're storing it down like that, that cap can end up forcing on really hard. Okay, so then it sits there and it's stuck on the brush, and so you have to use more and more force to pull it apart, right? Well, oftentimes to get more force so you can pull it apart, you're tightening your grip on it. You can end up pulling that furl. You know what I mean? You can end up damaging your brush just from just that repeated action. I've not seen it happen, but as I run through the scenario in my brain, yeah, that's I can easily see it happening over time. It's not something that's going to happen, you know, within a month, unless you're really rough with your brushes, but shouldn't be. Anyway. Kyle Urbach. Kris, do you have any suggestions on how to paint pale creamy green jade? I would start with a color like Cobalt Green, which is a really nice light green color. Again, jade green. I mean, we could type jade green in Google, look for an image search on jade green, and we'll get many variations of jade green. Your version of jade green might be different from my version of jade green. But for me, if I was going to paint something that was kind of jade green, like a pale creamy green jade, yeah, I would start with something like Cobalt Green. If I had Citadel colors, I don't know what colors you're using, but I often just default to Citadel because that's the most common one and it's everywhere, right? So anyway, I would start with Cobalt Green, and I would mix probably something like, what the hell is the pale flesh color? Pallid Witch Flesh. I would use a color like that, Pallid Witch Flesh, and I'd mix that. And to mix it in a ratio probably close to like maybe 3-to-1, 3 Pallid Witch to 1 Cobalt Green, or maybe up to 5 Pallid Witch to 1 Cobalt Green. That kind of thing. Anywhere in between that, 5 to 3 kind of 5 to 3 to 1 kind of ratio. Something like that, right? So anywhere from 5 to 3 to 1 Cobalt Green, right? Is that making sense? Hopefully that makes sense. But anyways, yeah. To make a really, really pale green jade. Jade green. Green jade? Jade green? So, yeah. And then, of course, to shade it, I'd simply just add more Cobalt Green to it. Make the shadow colors. To highlight it, I'd simply add more Cobalt Green. Possibly even just add white to it, right? Yeah, that's it, right? I mean, if you want to go with some funkier color variations, well, I mean, we could talk for hours on where to go with that. I mean, so yeah. Kenneth, hi everyone, been a while, aka Pantless Painter. Going for surgery last end of this month. Going for surgery last end of this month. Last end of this month. Gotcha. Wow. Then we'll be back up and painting again in December. Keep up the great works. Love your nurglings. Thank you, Kenneth. Matthew Demi. The magnet thing would work great for G&G brushes. Sure. Yeah, because I think they have a metal handle, but I think it's aluminum. I don't think it's metal. I think those are aluminum. Nathaniel, point taken. But that only happens if you mistreat your brushes or tools in general. True, Johann's suggestion is worth looking into. Oh, yeah, definitely. Quirk for a little while. I don't know if he still does it, though. Quirk for a little while, he had a piece of tin, and he had all his little tools magnetized, and they just had them right there on his desk. You know what I mean? And so he just took them off the wall. You know what I mean? Sure, you know, if you want. I mean, whatever works for you, man. Whatever helps with your workflow and gets you into painting, and you know what I mean, like gets you into it. By all means, you know. do it. As long as, you know, it isn't destructive and not destroying your brushes or, you know, your models or disrupting others' workflow or whatever, you know, do it. Kenneth, blue tack on walls works just fine. Sure, but blue tack will fail far sooner than magnets will. I would trust magnets over blue tack for that particular job. Blue tack works fine for temporary, you know, adherence to, you know, things adhering to things, but otherwise, yeah, I really wouldn't. Sorry, something distracted me there. I really wouldn't put my faith in blue tack to hold my brushes in any kind of secure location for very long. You always have to kind of readjust the tack, especially if you're putting an object there, then taking it off, putting it there, putting it there. You know what I mean? You'll reduce that tack's tackiness. Tack's tackiness? Tack's tackiness. Oh, excuse me. Matthew Demi. 1 Kabbalite green, ha ha ha. 2 Kabbalite green, ha ha. 3 Kabbalite green, ha ha ha. Is that like in the Count's voice? Like, 2 Kabbalite green, 3 Kabbalite. Raziel, I missed half the show. Or did you just show up for the good part? Tao Master, good morning. Good morning, Tao Master. Okay, so I think we're all... man, am I caught up with these comments? Holy crap, I'm caught up with these comments. My God, man. I caught up. So which means email time. So, for everybody with headphones or their volume just cranked, turn them down because here it comes. Email time. It's email time. And this is... oh, this is not the right window. Oh, that's still not the right window. This is an email from Raziel. Kris. This is a question for Weatherbrush. Oh, yeah. Finishing up some Guild Ball commission this week, and I will be shipping the Casaro Mini out to you. Expect him sometime next week. Week of the 8th. Sure, whatever. No rush. I know we talked about this earlier, but no rush. Question. I have been adding more flesh tone diversity into my 40k models lately, mostly my Dark Angels and Ultras, some Chaos, etc. I feel like I've had at least some success, but I'd really like to get people's differing skin tones represented well. I only have my own for close reference, but I'm adding Native American, Black, Latin, and Asian as well. Was curious if you have any go-to formulas or tips on this. Named flesh paints aren't often obvious. Thanks, Raziel. So painting flesh tones, like varying flesh tones, right? Okay, well, let's pretend we're all using Citadel colors, okay? And we want to paint, you know, African-American, you know, I mean, really dark flesh tones. I often will start with something like, say, Dryad Bark, and hit it with a wash of either Agrax Earthshade or Nuln Oil. Not really Nuln Oil, not so much. It's more Agrax Earthshade because that's a dark brown. Oftentimes, the skin tone, like for really dark skin people, it's a very, very dark brown. You know, sometimes you kind of get some skin tones that almost look black, like it almost looks like the color black. And so, I mean, you can obviously work your way from there. Like, you could obviously, like, somebody whose skin tone was really, 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 really dark, then, yeah, you could probably start with, like, Abaddon Black and build up to Dryad Bark. Highlights of Dryad Bark. So that's really, really dark skin. Dryad Bark is the base, and build up with Bugman's Glow, and that would give you very dark skin, like, darker skin tones. For something like if I was portraying, like, say, you know, like my own skin tone. I mean, like, even you look at me right now, I'm really not that dark right now. In the summertime, I was darker, but I mean, like, right now, I'm not that dark. My skin tone varies throughout the year, just like a rabbit, really. And of course, you know, really the color of one's skin is only that, is an adaptation to the sun, right? I mean, people like to chalk it up to more than what it is, but that's all it is just this life form's ability to deal with the amount of UV light that we're exposed to, right? That's it. For something like along the lines of like darker, like when you say Asian, I mean like, you know, Asian skin tones, I mean like that doesn't cover it, because I mean India is Asia, China is Asia, Japan is considered Asia, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so there's varying skin tones there, and you know, what are we talking about? You know, are we talking about like you know, Chinese and Korean, and because some, I don't know if it's just the way it's portrayed in TV or pictures or whatever, but some Korean, like, it looks really, really white. Like their skin looks really, really light. Some Japanese, they look really, really light. Whereas Chinese often will have darker skin tones, almost like, you know, almost like Native American almost, where their skin is a much deeper tone. Not quite like Indian or Pakistani or, you know, African skin tones, you know, but I mean, like, even African skin tones. When you say African, I mean, like, you know, are we talking Egypt? Because Egypt's in Africa. Are we talking about Monaco? You know, or Libya? You know what I mean? Like, are we talking about? Because that's Africa, right? So what skin tone are we talking? You know, what people are we talking about? Got to get specific, really, I think is what it is. General skin tones just don't work. I mean, like, if I said, you know, European, you know, that's even incorrect. If I said European, right? Well, what's European skin tone? Because, I mean, like, some French are pretty dark. Spanish, Italians, some Italians are pretty darn dark, you know? So, you know, and of course, you know, you get up into Northern Europe, and I mean, like, their skin tones can be very, very light. White, almost clear, you know? Some Scottish, I see pictures and stuff like that. Oh, their skin almost looks damn near clear. They're so white. Irish, right? So white, almost look clear. I'm joking, of course, but but you know what I mean? Like, and so these kind of generalizations don't really help. You'd have to kind of, you know, be a bit specific. I mean, and of course, you know, even now, even as, you know, it's kind of getting hard to describe skin tones, and, you know, but as far as like really, really dark skin, because I know like there's some people's, you know, in Africa, that the skin, you know, it's like when you see it on TV. I mean, like, I've not really, I've seen some people walk around in some of the towns, like in Toronto, and I lived in Memphis, but I didn't really notice anybody like really dark like that. Like, you know, you see like it almost looks black, like under the sun and everything like that. Like the skin is just really, really dark. And for that, but I mean, like, even then, I'm sure that if you took a close examination of it, you would see that there's still brown hues to it, you know? It's not like charcoal black or anything like that, you know? It's really just dark, dark brown, and everybody's a variation of really dark brown and really light, right? So yeah, I would build up from there. So oftentimes for really, 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 really dark skin, black, dried bark. For darker skins, dried bark, Agrax Earth Shade, highlight with Bugman Glow. Start off with Bugman Glow. Build up to Cadian Flesh Tone. Start off with Cadian Flesh Tone. Build up to Kislev Flesh. Start with Kislev Flesh. Build up to Pallid Witch Flesh. And you pretty much cover all the flesh tones of humans, right? So hopefully that helps. Reziel. I almost forgot who asked this question. So yeah. So hopefully that kind of helps. Get your brain turning on, you know, on flesh tones. Oftentimes the shade washes for darker flesh. I'll work with Agrax Earth Shade for when we're building up to lighter flesh tones. I will often use Reikland Flesh Shade. Although sometimes with the really light flesh tones, like if I say, for example, if I base coated in Kislev Flesh, and I think I showed this in one of the videos recently, more recent months, where I took a Kislev Flesh, or Kislev Flesh and Cadian Flesh Tone mixture. That was the base color. And then I took Cadian Flesh Tone, made a shade wash out of it, and then shade washed the flesh areas with that Cadian Flesh Tone. And that gave me the darker tones that I wanted in those areas, and it resided in the creeps and crawlies of areas, and you know what I mean? And so, yeah. But otherwise, yeah, that's about it. I mean, on the Citadel side, that's about how I would go with flesh tones. Yeah. So hopefully, Reziel, that helped. That answers your question. And you know, kind of gets you thinking about, you know, where to go. Holy moly, Reziel, talking quite a bit here. Reziel, more blue tablets? No. What? Oh, that's Ben Ellis. Sorry. Where's Reziel? No, Reziel's talking there. Okay, so Kris, yeah, Reziel, Kris agreed. It's a nuanced question. Let's keep it to up to 3 or 4 examples, perhaps. Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's just, you know, building from that spectrum. That's the spectrum of skin tones within, you know, using Citadel colors. You know, that, yeah. Have used Ricard Flesh with Reichland for some decent results. Sure. Yeah. I mean, because it all depends on how much Reichland Flesh shade you use to tint. You know, if you use it straight out of the bottle and apply it to the model surface, you're using it quite heavily. You can thin it down and apply it and do a very subtle tinting on a surface. You know, Reichland Flesh shade, yeah, it's a very pallid kind of fleshy gray tone, which some people have. I mean, you know, it just all depends on you know, what kind of skin tone you're going for. And because human skin varies so greatly as far as the spectrum of how it looks, honestly, you can't really go wrong as long as you keep it in the spectrum of browns and lighter tones. I mean, you know. Now, mind you, if you started off black and built up to Kislev Flesh, that might look weird. It might look a little weird. So, yeah, hopefully, Reziel, that helps. Reziel, I've been having more questions lately around the Native American tones. I was inspired by Deathwing's story again. Oh, for like a Native American, like a, you know, kind of a mid to darker tone, yeah, I would start off with something like Bugman's Glow for the base. Shade, maybe Reichland, Agrax. Again, depends what kind of mood I'm in. And then highlight up with Kislev Flesh, or not Kislev Flesh, Cadian Flesh. Add Cadian Flesh tone to it, and then maybe just a hint of Kislev Flesh, just for the very finest highlights. But if you're doing a whole unit of dudes like that, then, you know, yeah, it's just a few tone variations, and you're good to go. Jim White. Or worse, white skin like me, Jim White. I mean, like, you know, I'm not sure why it's called, you know, white, right? When, I mean, well, I guess some Irish, you know, they're so white they're almost clear. Like I said, it's really quite funny. But I mean, like, any kind of stress, blushing, anything like that, skin immediately changes to pink, bright pink. You know, more pink skin than white, really. Pink skins. Reziel, I used to love Talaran Flesh. Cool. Darren Common. I've had some success doing Dark West Asian skin. Dark West Asian? Like Indian or Pakistani? Is that what we're talking about? Like that kind of flesh tone? You get even some Russian, right? I mean, like, Russia's part of Asia, right? What's Russian skin tone? They're not all Caucasian looking. Half the country is, you know, looks more Asian, you know, like Chinese Asian, Mongolian, you know. Anywho, Darren, yeah, it was his question. I've had some success doing Dark West Asian skin tone with XV88. Took 2 coats of Agrax, toning it down, shading back with XV88, and a blend of Ungor Flesh. Very interesting, very cool. Yeah. What you know? I mean, like, as long as I said, like, there's tones of, because even, like, amazingly enough, even tones of, like, blue and green are in everybody's skin tone. Everybody. And you're saying, what, blue and green, Kris? Are you freaking high? A little. But when you look at your skin, you see, like, the color tones of veins on your skin, and that throws back yellows and greens and some hints of blues. You see it in the shadows of skin. That's why oftentimes in a lot of other kind of flesh tutorials I've done, like painting flesh and ogres, stuff like that, I'll use blues mixed with flesh tone to give me like the shadows and stuff like that. Because oftentimes when you look at flesh in the shade, it's not a pure dark brown. It's actually got hints of blues in there and stuff like that, and greens. It's just the way the light plays on the surface. It's just because, you know, the nature of skin, really, because skin isn't a color. It's not opaque. It's layers of clear cells, and through their collective that they, you know what I mean? It's like tinted glass almost, you know? Because there's blood vessels and stuff like that are all sitting right underneath that surface, and, you know, so, yeah. So, yeah. John J. Here's Johnny. Yeah. Oh, Razia, you're just doing individuals? Okay, well, yeah, I mean, you can spend a little bit more time on it, I suppose. But I mean, like, you know, if it's for tabletop, I mean, you know, going a few highlights, it's all necessary. You don't have to, like, you know, do color blends on the faces and everything like that, especially if it's just tabletop. Just, you know, get the highlights on, get them on the table, get playing, right? Raziel, I always love the idea of Dark Angels recruiting from so many worlds and would have all these potential variations. Oh yeah, definitely. You definitely, like, I mean, like, the Imperium, everybody wouldn't be the same color. Because, I mean, like, humans wouldn't settle the same planet. And even within our one planet, we have many variations of skin tone. So even on many Imperial worlds, there might be, you know, that variation. Because, I mean, like, how long does it take the human animal to evolve to a climate, right? And, you know, even on many Imperial worlds, you know, some regions there might be darker skinned humans, and some regions lighter skinned humans, because some areas of the planet get more sun than others, and some planets might get completely bathed in sun, and some might be completely dark, and you know what I mean? Like, and it's, you know, it's kind of fun. So, you know, it's kind of fun to imagine those kind of things. Like, what would humanity look like in the 41st millennium? Because 40,000 years, would the human animal would be different. This life form would be different looking. They would be alien to us. Like, if they came back in time and said, we're from the 41st millennium, I'm from Cadia, that person would not look like a human. Guaranteed. They would not. They would be visually different looking to us. How? It's completely within the conditions of what Cadia is like, right? You know, if it was even if it was an exact replica of Earth, there still would be variations in there that, you know, we would see that person go, where are you from? You know what I mean? Like, you're not from around here, are you? You know, because they'd just be different. They'd just be alien. 40,000 years is a long time. Imagine how fast, you know what I mean? Like, just 500 years. 500 years of this game, of this, you know, human species, and how fast things have changed for humans. You know what I mean? You right now would be completely alien to, you know, 500 people 500 years ago. You would be completely alien. Wouldn't even know what you were about. You'd be speaking some weird language with some common words, and you'd be like, wait, what? He's talking about something there, and you know what I mean? And yeah. So, anyway. Where am I in the comments? Dr. Zantos, Kris is high. No wonder he has the patience for us. Yeah. Goes to Starman Deluxe. Kris are freaking high. Little. Ben Ellis, blue and green makes sense. Deoxygenated blood would have those tines. Yeah. Those tones. Yes, those tones. Yes, exactly. You look at any famous artwork from, like, artists from the past when they're painting people's skin, and you will see those tones. Those, like, you can just do close up and just like a sectional of, like, the shadow, like, you know, you see the model stand there and there's a shadow falling along the neck, and you see and you look at that color and you just closely examine that color. It's not dark brown, it's not black, it's tones of blue, and, you know what I mean, maybe possibly greens, and you know what I mean. So yeah, just things to think about. And I've shown it in quite a few tutorials on flesh. I think one of the earliest ones I did it was an ogre I painted. It was from Avatars of War. It was old tutorial. Back when I kind of first started with mini wargaming. Old. Ghost the Starman Deluxe. Are you at me? What? Wait, what? George Hints. Reaper miniatures make flesh tones and triad color paints are great. Okay. I don't use a lot of Reaper paints. I have a collection of Reaper paints. I have the Master Series. I hardly ever use them. I like them though. I mean, they're good. They're thin. They have they're nice thin body paint. And actually, I can see why a lot of people do like those paints because they dry with a nice matte finish versus Citadel and like some Vallejo colors. They'll dry with a kind of a satin finish. Some people don't like that. It doesn't bother me. I'll just change it at the end. You know what I mean? That's the finish ain't the finish ain't the finish. That makes sense. The finish ain't the finish until it's finished, right? So that's how I view it. You know what I mean? So people go on, oh, it dries with a matte finish, or it dries with a satin finish, or a gloss finish. That doesn't matter to me. The finish is the finish when we finish it. If that makes sense. Ben Ellis. Skin tones range from salamander to night lords. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it, right? Salamanders are really, really dark. Night lords are really, really pale. Yeah, so just skin tones, man. It's just, you know, like a white rabbit and a brown rabbit. There's no difference. They're both rabbits. He just changes color. Summertime, he's brown. Winter, he's white. Same thing. It's the same thing with the human animal. Some conditions are really, really sunny. The skin adapts, makes it darker. Some conditions are lighter. Skin doesn't have to absorb quite as much. The skin doesn't produce quite as much, what is it? Melanonin? Is that the word I'm looking for? And that's why you get lighter skin tones? Anyway. Let's do another email. Let's go. Time. Holy crap, it's 1:30. Headphones. email time. Email time. It's kind of hilarious. I have this like sound meter bar because technically I can't hear the music when it's playing, and when I can see the bar and it's like full red at some moments of that. It's like just full red. It's like, wow, whoever's wearing headphones during this moment, man, they're gonna be deef. All right, this is from our good buddy Mark, aka Nathaniel. I was like, who's it from? Anyway, the title of this is Some Unorthodox Way to Paint a Mini, aka How to Motivate Oneself. Okay, so earlier question was, you know, how do you stay motivated, right? So here is Marcus, aka Nathaniel, aka Writer of Tomes, again with a somewhat lengthy email. And believe me, kids, this is lengthy, so get comfy, pour yourself a drink, pause, whatever you got to do, but this one's going to be a lengthy one. So here we go. So recently, I was at my local GW store, and I had a couple of mini Primaris Intercessors to paint and some time to waste. I wanted to try out something unorthodox, for me at least, because I could. In one of the last live streams, either episode 219, 220, or 221, not sure, someone in the chat said something about losing the drive to paint. So I was wondering, what would I do? Here's what. After preparing the parts, washing the sprues with mild detergent, drying, cutting them, deburring, drilling muzzle brakes, etc., I primed them with Chaos Black and some Skull White. Old cans before the color switch. I sprayed Sharp Burst of Skull White into the still wet Chaos Black primer to get a grayish tint. The white primer also splattered a little, so it looked like the mini had walked through an ashen atmosphere. Forgot to take pictures. I'm afraid the pictures only show the almost end result. As soon as the mini were done drying, I dry brushed, occasionally wet brushed, all the parts and bases with GW Lead Belcher because I wanted to get somewhat worn metallic look and a certain je ne sais quoi. Yes, I'm aware that wear and tear is usually done in reverse. Over the layer of Lead Belcher, I wanted to dry brush another color. Because I wasn't expecting anything from this, I had no clear image in mind and was a bit clueless regarding the color. One of the GW employees recommended Soulstone Blue, which was a better pick than my choice of Hellion Green looked too ghostly. So I dry brushed blue over everything, leaving spots unpainted on purpose. After that, I dry brushed the helmets with Mephiston Red, leaving the bolters and the backpack and the bases in Lead Belcher. I used Sylvaneth Bark to dry brush over one of the Lead Belcher's bases, but that turned out bad, so I dry brushed it again with Lead Belcher. And then I think it turned out quite nice. Mini on front in the right pictures. On the front right picture. Yeah, learn to read, Kris. Learn to read. Once the minis were dry to the touch, I washed everything with Nuln Oil and assembled the minis. I think the outcome is okay, given the fact it was half-assed, unprepared, and without any expectation whatsoever. It does look on the pictures that some parts weren't washed with Nuln Oil, but only because I wasn't using enough, so touch-ups are necessary, especially with the purity seals. After the touch-ups, the mini gets sealed with matte varnish and are done, and the grimy look is intentional. Sorry, phone distracted me here. The mini are definitely not competition worthy, but quite okay for the table. So if someone is new to the hobby, the person can take it as an example to start off. Probable internal monologue of said person. Meh, that guy did it. His mini look quite shite, and he doesn't give a damn. So can I. Last but not least, I don't care about the Zenithal highlighting OSL or any of those fancy techniques because I had a gut feeling and went with it. Sometimes that's all there is to it. And you're right. No pictures of airbrush minis as of yet. I'm afraid the work on my spray booth project had to be postponed because life seems to always find a way to interrupt. Man makes plans and fate laughs. I think the idiom goes. Also had to use my smartphone because my DSLR died somewhen around last month, and I didn't know what model to buy next. My old analog SLR still works, but it's a pain in the rear to develop films or find a store that does a decent job. So what are my lessons learned? 1. Sometimes you have to go with your gut. Experimenting is fun. 3. Check if your equipment is in working condition. Do something completely unorthodox. Don't care about the results. Next time, for the Emperor, Marcus, P.S. No weird attachments today, only pictures. And, yeah, MSC, barrier systems, intelligence. I think that's his, yeah. Anyway, my Gmail virus scanners are temporarily unavailable. My Gmail virus scanners seem to always be temporarily unavailable. Anywho, oops, wrong one. There we go. Oh, I didn't fix that from last time. Oops. So here is his Primaris intercessors using that following technique that he had described in the previous body of text. And I think it's a very interesting result. If I knew what my end result was going to be, it'd be a lot different than the way you described. But if you're just kind of winging it, and, I definitely would be pleased with this result for the most part. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you created something that, looks good to the tabletop. There's nothing wrong with it. Ooh, it's like animation. Here we go. So you can see, where he's applied the Nuln Oil. And I'm going to assume the Nuln Oil you used was the gloss Nuln Oil, not the matte version. Just because the metallics just still look kind of shiny. Like I can see like the flash off the surface. It seems like, it's kind of shiny. Anywho. Yeah, like I said, like if you were just kind of winging this and, you were just kind of, screw it, I'll go here, I'll go there. And, venture around and have some fun. And, definitely this is something that, that I would recommend for people. Just play with your colors. Just play. That's all you gotta do is just play with your colors. That's it. And I mean, like, he came to an end result was quite interesting. You know, with building upon this and refining it, I definitely would recommend if he was going to go further with it. But as something as just kind of, yeah, I'll just do this, and we'll do this, and we'll go here, and we'll go there, and you know what I mean? Like, I think this is fantastic. I think this is a really great idea. And yes, on the topic of helping somebody who is, you know, on the verge of burning out and just not feeling inspired about things, and yeah, definitely. This is definitely a big thing. I mean, you know, this is something that I would highly recommend a lot of people give a try. Is just play. Just play with your colors. Do we have any? Rezio. Kris, here's a good one. I was always very keen on giving different skin tones to orcs and Tau. Might make Xenos army really awesome. Yeah, go for varying skin tones of orcs and Xenos. Yeah, why not? Definitely. Who says that they're always one color, right? Nathaniel, yay, my mail. The Gim. I'm sitting in the bathtub enjoying the show. Oh, man. And I mean, like, immediately when Gim says something and you imagine, like, where Gim is, you immediately can imagine, because Gim, as you may or may not know, is in the intro. In the intro, he's the fellow who's sitting up with no shirt on. That's Gim. And picturing that in the bathtub. That was me with the shiver up the spine. Nathaniel, Kris, no, it wasn't. It was the matte one. Oh, really? Okay. The lead belcher layer in combination with the soulstone blue had this kind of effect on the entire model. Well, soulstone blue, that's a clear color, right? And so as you noticed when you were laying the color down, it was tinting the areas blue, but still allowing that metallic to shine through, right? And I know a lot of people have asked about, you know, getting that colored metallic look, and you know what I mean? Like, see, like for example, like if somebody was to emulate that metallic blue color scheme, I would just advise they mix a little bit of like Cantor blue into Runefang steel, or you know, something like that. Get a nice 1-to-1 mix and apply that as a base coat. Shade it in Gilliman blue or shade it in Nuln Oil gloss to get those tones, and then take, you know, again, just a tiny bit of Cantor blue with Runefang steel in a larger amount, in a larger ratio, and begin edge highlighting, and you know what I mean, and you're done, right? And you know, that's a refined kind of look for that color scheme, right? So, but because he was just kind of, let's go here, let's go there, and you know what I mean, and that's actually really, really good. There's something, you know, cathartic about something like that. Then you just kind of go with it, just go with the flow, and just let the paint flow through you, right? And just allow free flowing inspiration to just kind of hit you as you're just playing, and you know, and that's good. That allows your brain to rest and come up with fresh new ideas and new things. And I highly would recommend everybody out there to try that. To just let it flow. Just let it flow. Just play with it. Just let it go. Try blending, wet blending. If you've never wet blended before, just throw 2 colors on your model and just play on that surface. Right? Just go. Just do it. Ruin Bainey. No amount of brain bleach will purge that image. No, it won't. It won't, dude. It won't. All right, let's do another email, because we can, because we shall. This is from Yuri. Yuri? I'm going to say Yuri Lopez. It is Yuri Lopez, right? Yuri Lopez. Hello, Kris. Oh, Lord, almighty Lord of the monkeys. My name is Yuri. I'm from Spain, even though my name is Russian, so English is not my native language. I have been watching The Way of the Brush for a few months now, enjoy the show, and finally decided to send an email and share what I'm working on. I'm currently painting Archeon the Ever-Chosen. Oddly, my first Age of Sigmar miniature, since I usually collect Imperial Fists and good old Space Orcs. I got with the last down a year ago, and the rest of my friends don't share the hobby. And yesterday I thought, why not share it with the monkeys? So I humbly present my finished Archeon, and all CNC is welcome. To paint it, I airbrushed Vallejo Gray Primer, then airbrushed Abaddon Black. I'm very new to airbrush, and it is still frustrating. And then I followed Duncan's Warhammer TV video on it. I'm quite happy with it. If you would like more pictures, I can send them when I finish the dragon, or send pictures of some of my 40k stuff. By the way, it would be cool if you could dedicate one episode to share old and new miniatures that you and other monkeys have painted, just to show the progression. Excellent idea. That's an excellent idea. That's an excellent idea, actually. You know what? Maybe we'll set up like episode 223 or something, or 224 or something like that as the sharing episode. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we'll do that. It's actually a really good idea, Yuri. Now, there are a few questions I have. I have never varnished a model. What is the easiest way to start? Also, a friend of mine is an artist, and she is trying to create statues made of roots and branches among other organic materials. She heard there is a product that can help preserve it so it don't deteriorate over time. Do you or any of the monkeys know what it is or where to get it? Any help with this will be deeply appreciated. Thanks in advance to you all. Yuri, aka Promontory? Anyway. Let's look at his chosen or Archeon. So here he is sitting on the saddle, and I think it's a really great job. I like the color transitions in the sword. I think on that sword, at least judging by the colors here, how the tips of the sword almost goes to like a really kind of pale white. I think I would throw like a yellow glaze on this just to kind of warm it all back up. If a glowing kind of fire is what the end result is wanting. The armor looks great. The gold, everything looks nice and clean. Let's zoom in a bit here. Yeah, look at that. Soak it in, kids. Soak it in. I think it's excellent. Excellent job. I like the texture on the horns. I mean, yeah. Looks good. Armor, nice and clean. Gold's where it should be. Oh, was that it? Oh, that was all he was showing us. That's all he was sharing with us. So thank you, Yuri, for sending that in. Awesome stuff. Yeah, on that sword, I think I would just give it a yellow glaze. Lamenter's yellow is the glaze. I'd give it a light little layer of that, and that'll kind of warm that back up, and yeah. Because also too, the reds of the sword, you don't want them being confused with the reds of the cloak and the hair. So yeah, but I mean that's what I do. As far as not painting for a while and then get back into painting. Awesome, that's great to hear. And I like what you've done. It's nice and clean, and I look forward to more pictures whenever you manage to get more done. Excuse me. Really quick in the chat here. No, that's it. That was the last question. Is that the last question? No, there's more questions, comments, but I'm not seeing them in my window here. Why is that? Has this failed me? Has this program failed me? I think things have failed me. Anyway, oh, Johnny's Chop Shop. Almost 2 p.m. Guess it's time to put on pants. Put on some pants or paints. Put on some pants, yeah. Put on some pants. Jeez Louise, man. Yeah. Okay, so let's do another email. This one is an ongoing thing here, but it's from George, and we've been going back and forth talking about the Turbo Dork paints, the color shifts, and their metallics, and he was sharing something with me. Here we go. Okay, so we were talking about the Turbo Dork paints. He was really excited about them. He got them, on the recommendation that of the post we had made on Facebook, and Instagram and stuff like that. And also I have this set, and he had a really fantastic idea, and I have yet to try it myself. So he's kind of beaten me to the punch to this really fantastic idea. It's his idea, but I mean, he postulated it to me as well. But I mean, you know, it was a fantastic idea, and at least I think it was his idea. But either way, he wanted to go with the Turbo Dork spicy meatball, which is this really fantastic metallic red. And then he wanted to also use, what the heck's the color? Lava? I think it was, what is it? Lava? The lava color. Oh, what the frick is it? Ground is Lava. That's it. Ground is Lava from Turbo Dork. And lay that on top as like a highlight layer. Excellent idea. And I was like, wow, give it a try. You know what I mean? Especially for armor. On the little Benums, I don't know. But the big vehicles, give it a try, right? And obviously he has an airbrush, so he was able to lay this on, you know, fairly uniformly, which is the advantage of airbrushing. But here is his efforts, and I'm going to show you. Now, as I said, we were going back and forth about these ideas, and again, it was kind of a conversation, but then I had to show you guys because this is fantastic. So here is his Void Raven Bomber. Now, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is a whole thing of lava, ground is lava, or if he did with the spicy meatball and then did the ground is lava. But look at this. This is really, really nice. It's really, really cool. Colors are just fantastic. I really like these paints. They are very, very vibrant. Like I'm really quite impressed. Now, mind you, they're the only acrylic color shift paints I've played with, but I am very impressed with how they cover and how nice and vibrant and color shift they get. Just like, I mean, obviously, like looking at the body, right? I mean, you can see like up by the cockpit how it's still red. It has this kind of champagne red kind of color going on, and then it's really kind of gold at the wings. But I mean, that's how the light is playing on that model surface at the time. If we had like a video of how that is playing out, I mean, you would see the shifts of colors of red and golds. But I really enjoy color shift paints. They're really, really fun. They're really fantastic, and it's a nice, fast way of getting, you know, a very interesting look on a model. And so, yeah, and so that's from George. What's George's handle? I can't remember. Anyway, George, you know damn well who you are. But yeah, really, I had to share that one. I told him I had to share that one. That was really, really cool. And I mean, those Turbo Dork paints, I really like them. They're really fun, like I said, and you know, they're actually a pretty decent price. They're about what you'd pay. They're not too premium priced or anything like that, and you get quite a bit in the bottle. They're about the same. The bottles are about the same size as, if anybody's familiar with Privateer Press ink, they're about the same size as all those kind of bottles like that. They're not quite like Vallejo. They seem like they got a bigger body than Vallejo bottles. But then again, Vallejos might be a little bit taller. So there's somebody messing up my window. People all over the place here. I don't know what's going on. People trying to freak me out. Anywho, yeah, we're gonna. You know what? I got 6 minutes left of the show, and we're just gonna power through the rest of these emails. Screw it. We're just doing the rest of these emails. So, if there's something pressing in the chat that really has to go, the Gim looks good, but sigh, Eldar. You know what? Shut up, Jim. Ben Ellis, Eldar look quite difficult to paint. No, Eldar are not difficult to paint, Ben. It's just, you know what? It's kind of this stigma that, you know, Eldar are just kind of fancy kind of colors all over the place and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? Like you often don't see a lot of Eldar vehicles weathered, right? You don't see Eldar vehicles rusty and chipped armor and, you know, and stuff like that. You don't see it. It's really not within, and there's no reason why not, right? There's no reason why we, you know, with orcs being in particular colors, no reason with skin tones. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason for it. It's whatever we want. These are our models. We spent our good hard-earned money on it. We can paint them whatever damn way we want, right? And, you know, again, with Eldar, you know, like even Space Marines, right? I mean, like, why not apply these bright colors onto a Space Marine faction? I mean, the idea that they're a military unit and that, you know, like, why would you be marching into battle, you know, on, say, you know, in bright blue armor, bright yellow armor, bright red armor, right? I mean, Does that even make sense? No, it doesn't, right? So why couldn't they be bright metallics and, you know, stuff like that, and, you know, color fades and rainbows, and, you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why not, right? So they're your Marines, they're your models. You paint them however you want. But yeah, it is kind of weird how, you know, like Eldar, it just kind of, Eldar are always these colors, and it's like, well, not really. I mean, anybody can be painted these way, but people get trapped in their own what's the word I'm looking for here? You know, when you're trapped in your own thing, in your mind is your own prison. What is that word? What's that word, people? Anyway, let's do another email, because now there's only 4 minutes left of the show. So here is an email from Dave Turner, aka Disco Duke. Hi, Kris and the monkeys. Thought, as you mentioned my diorama last week in Way the Brush, I'd send you an update. Since I last sent one, I finished my shaman. I know you said he may be a bit too bright, but I thought it would draw the eye to him and Orion as the 2 focal points. The rest of the models are more background. I've added some dead grass, which I need to add a bit of shade and highlights too. Some fungus in the logs at the back. I have one more Beastman to do, and I'm still considering some dogs for Orion. Do you think it's worth knocking the brightness of the red mushrooms back? I think they may be too much distraction. Also, any other CNC is always welcome. Massive thanks, as always, Disco Duke. So, let's have a look at his diorama that he's been working on for a while now. And, yeah, I mean, I had mentioned before that, you know what I mean? Like, initially, the way he had described this diorama was he wanted to really kind of have this dichotomy of life and death, dark and light. And so I kind of cautioned against, you know, painting a shaman brighter colors, but he's going to go with brighter colors, and that's fine. That's his choice. I mean, it's obviously his diorama, right? So everything was good. I like the little built-up area around his feet and everything like that, where you've got them integrated in. The mushrooms, knocking the red back a bit, like the ones on the lower half of the picture frame. I suppose you could. I mean, you could make them look kind of corrupted, like even like they have rot on them. So going in there with like a bit of agrax or something like that, and just kind of tinting one half of it, you know what I mean? Like to show like one half of the mushroom is kind of becoming, you know, tainted, as it were. You know, yeah. I mean, I like it. I like where he's going. I like, you know, I like what he's doing. It's very, very cool. It's a fun little diorama. Yeah, the red could come back a bit, I suppose. Looking at it now. Just because, like, yeah, as my eyes kind of playing around, and I'm following between... Because, like, right now, as it is... Okay, when I'm looking at this right now, as it is, the mushrooms are pointing to the shaman. And I'm having to find Orion. If that makes sense. Like, as I'm looking at this composition right now, as it is, I'm immediately drawn to the shaman. And the mushrooms point my eye that way. The overall composition, eventually I can see Orion. But again, that might be the way that the light of the shot. It might be just the way this is photographed. Like in person, it might balance a lot better. I don't know. I can't say. But yeah, by the way this photo looks, yeah, the mushrooms, they're like little light beacons, like on an airway strip. They're pointing right at the shaman. Even the upper portion of the staff of the goat in the background is pointing to the shaman. You see these triangular lines pointing to the shaman. And yeah, I think you want more of a triangular type of composition. So yeah, adding the doggies. Yeah, you might want to add the doggies. Yeah. Yeah, I would tone down the red mushrooms. And like I said, as it is at the moment, I'm drawn more to the shaman than I am Orion. And I think Orion should be equally, if not greater, in regards, because I don't know, just the way it just feels like he should be more dominant in the composition overall. I like the colors for the shaman though. I mean, like I said, he's bright, but I like the color scheme. It's pretty cool. See, the other thing is though, is using that bright magenta. I don't see the magenta anywhere else within the composition. That's also another thing. I don't like. It's not like the banner is magenta. It's not like the other beastmen have things of magenta on them. You know what I mean? Like the colors aren't tied together. I mean, like if you wanted to have the shaman brighter, and with these colors, the other beastmen should have had subdued versions of his color scheme, darker versions of it. Something to consider anyway, Disco. I mean, I realize you're getting pretty far on in this project, so it's up to you, whichever way you want to go with it. But yeah, it's looking really good though. I'm liking it. I'm still looking at the pictures of it. Yeah, judging by the like the whole composition, the one shot where the whole composition of it. Yeah, I'm immediately drawn. Why? Because there's contrast there. There's contrast in that part of the image, right? The ground he's at is fairly dark, fairly, dim color, and then he's really kind of bright, and he has these red mushrooms and the top of that banner pole, and it's all pointing to him. And so it's like he's the most important part of this composition because everything's kind of pointing to him. Nothing's pointing to Orion. Nothing is making your eye go between the two and then around, right? Like with a triangular kind of composition, your eye kind of naturally goes here, then here, you know what I mean? And it's a triangle, right? Depending on which way the triangle's oriented and what have you, but that's the composition, right? Is that, that's the composition, and that's the direction the eye follows, and, yeah. Everything's pointing to the shaman, and Orion is being ignored at the moment. So, yeah. But anywho, thanks for the email, Disco Duke. Awesome stuff. I look forward to more progress on this project. I know this has been a labor of love for a while, and so yeah. Yeah, we got time for one more. One more? Yeah, I don't know. Is my chat even updating? You know what? My chat's not updating on this crap. It's pissing me off. Pissing me off. Pissing me off. Anywho. Yeah, let's do one more email. Just because we can. And we shall. This one is from Kris, a.k.a. Legendary Terry. Hello, everyone. Here are some updated photos of the project I'm working on. I have worked on further brightening the skin tones on the model as you recommended using Screaming Skull. Once I get my Waywatcher green glaze in, I plan on thinning that bit down a bit to give it back the green tone. Wow, that was a tongue twister. For the black highlights, I wanted to get your opinion on it. I have considered highlighting it in gray using Eshin Gray and Dawnstone. It does seem a little plain though. I have also considered going with some darker blue tones as well, but I'm not sure how that contrasts well with the model being green. What are your thoughts on it? I appreciate your help. Sincerely, Kris, aka Legendary Terry. So, with this model, and let's go switch this over this view here. Actually, yeah, that's pretty good. Screw it. it's come down just a couple hairs. Okay, so he started adding a little bit of Screaming Skull to the green, start bringing out the highlights and such, and he's got a lot of work to do. With the black, yeah, going with grays. I don't think you could go wrong with grays. If you were to go with blues, actually, okay, let's split the difference and go with my favorite, which is turquoise, which is a blue-green. And you add a little bit of Sotek green to your black in roughly a, like, say, 3-to-1, 3 black to 1 Sotek. You end up pretty much with a color like Incubi Darkness. And essentially you could just go buy Incubi Darkness and begin bringing the color up. In fact, if you want to go for something really subtle, you mix a little bit of Incubi Darkness with Abaddon Black in, say, a 2-to-1, 2 black to 1 Incubi. Do that as your first initial highlight. And then 1-to-1 and do another highlight. And then, you know, just a bit of straight Incubi Darkness as kind of a hedge highlight. And then add maybe a bit of light gray. Or you could even add, like, say, Dark Reaper, something along those lines. Add it to Incubi Darkness just a little bit in like a 3-to-1, 2-to-1, 2 Incubi to 1 Dark Reaper, just to bring the tone up just ever so slightly. And then you just do give it a light little edging just to bring out the details, you know, or deliberately edge or deliberately pick out the details, whatever, you know, just to kind of on the spot points, right? You don't go very far, just like a little tiniest little dots here and there. And, you know, you go with that kind of color and that could really kind of bring it out. And, you know, because it's kind of a blue green, it's a very cold green, in fact. It almost would be an exercise in monochromatic, as even adding the Screaming Skull, or, you know, yeah, is that Screaming Skull? Yeah, Screaming Skull to the green, which has a lot of yellows in it, has the very hints of browns, but it does have a bit predominantly yellowish tone to it, very warm tone. And so it actually would be an exercise in monochromatic between warm and cold tones, which give you a very interesting result. In which case, you know, the sword you could do following that kind of color scheme, where it'd be a cold greens or warm greens, very light, very dark, whichever way you wanted to go. I would actually probably go, because the skin's so bright, I'd probably go with a darker tone for the skin. The wings, again, probably something along those lines. The veins and stuff like that, I'd probably go fairly bright, leaving the ribs just a little bit darker. With the sword, yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Of course, you could always go with another color, just for giggles, right? You could probably go with, man, I mean, sky's the limit where you can go with that sword, because you can just do it in metallics. You could do it in colored metallics. You could do it in just solid colors. You know, I'm just trying to think, like, if I wanted to go somewhere crazy with it, probably light metallic blue purples. Yeah. Very light metallics with the hints of blue and purples in there. For the sword. Maybe. Of course, you could always go with a bright red, fiery orange, you know, go that route. I have no idea what route you're going to go. Or shoot, you could even do it in bone. Just do the bone sword in bone. Make it look like a bone sword, you know. It's entirely up to you, bud. Where you're going with this all. But as far as the black areas are concerned, yeah, I would go with turquoise, or just go pick up Incubi Darkness and start off with like a 3-to-1, then 2-to-1, then 1-to-1, then just a very light edging of Incubi Darkness, and then maybe a dot added with maybe a lighter gray or something like that into the mixture, and then just do a very light dot highlight on very caps and points of things and stuff like that. And that might yield you the result you're looking for, where it'll still stay predominantly black, but it'll still have a bit of that green cast to it. And, you know, might feel quite natural, because otherwise, you know, going with, like, say, throwing browns in, that'll start to take on red tones, and that'll look, you know, very complimentary, of course, but I don't know if that's the look you're going for. Of course, you will go with, like, blues, with very light edgings of blue. You could go with blues, I suppose. I would probably just, yeah, very light turquoise. But I'd leave it predominantly black. Just because you're building up so bright with the Screaming Skull that, yeah, I would allow that contrast to play. Unless, of course, you don't want quite that much contrast. Maybe you want the contrast to reside within the sword and the body, the wings and the body and the sword. You know, I mean, it all, you know, it's kind of pick your battles kind of thing, where you want your contrast to go, how you want the element of contrast to occur. You know, even within the flesh itself, going from the darker greens up to, you know, that Screaming Skull. Wow, I can't even seem to spit out Screaming Skull. But really fantastic model. I like this model. And of course, Creature Caster is an awesome company to deal with. They're really fantastic. Really good bunch of dudes. Yeah, look at that. It's a lot of fun. So it really, again, it's all how you want to go about it. How do you, you know, doing like an exercise in monochromatic. Dr. Xantos, an onyx sword. An onyx sword would be cool. Yeah, like a pure black sword, just maybe glossy black, you know, with very fine highlights. Even like done like marble, black marble with like little greens or blues or even browns moving through, like little lines and little veins and such like that. That would be very cool, you know. There's all sorts of directions you can go, buddy. All sorts of directions. Ben Ellis at Kris and Monkeys. What would you advise with an airbrush compressor and a range of needles for the 150, 105? I mean, compressor. I mean, like, whatever compressor you can find. I mean, if you're going to go outside the realm of Badger, what Badger recommends or what Badger's selling, I mean, you know, you can go pick up compressors and go to the hardware store and pick up a big ass compressor that, you know, does like 100 psi, but then you got to get the regulators for them. If you pick up Badger airbrush and pick them in a water compressor, you're gonna have to get adapters to fit. So be mindful of what compressor you're picking up and what the fittings are. So you can find the appropriate fittings and needles. I mean, needles, the 0.5. I mean, you know, it comes with a perfectly fine needle. As long as you take care of the brush, the needle will be fine. You know how many times I changed the needle on my Patriot? Yeah. Take a guess. Take a guess how many times I've changed the needle. If you know me and the rant I said earlier about the whole thing with the airbrushing and taking care of your stuff, I think you can take a guess on how many times I've changed that needle. I think once. In like 5 years, I've changed it once. So, yeah. Nathaniel, yeah. Fedden, get a 189 with air tank. Don't go below 0.2 millimeter needle. There's barely any paint with fine enough pigment. Use 0.3, 0.4 millimeter for priming, base coating large areas. Sure. I mean, I just use the default needle in my in the Patriot 105. It's a 0.5, and I mean, it does a lot. In the early phases of your airbrushing, I mean, you're not going to notice the difference between needles, between a 0.5 and a 0.3. You're not very likely to notice a difference. It's not until you get into some fine work, and when you're really getting, you know, your thinning mixtures down and working with your PSI and nailing your PSI, and you know what I mean, like, these are all things. Airbrushing is not a simple thing. It's just as nuanced as brush painting. I mean, it takes practice, and you know. But again, the airbrushing is really great because, you know, there's some really quick and easy things that can be achieved with airbrushing versus bristle brush painting. But, you know, it's all a lot. With airbrushing, it is like it's 1/3 or it's 2/3 prep, 1/3 work, right? I don't know why it's thirds. Maybe let's go 3/4 prep, 1/4 work, which is, you know, pretty much how it goes. 0.5 is a good start. 0.5 is fine. Darren, I found 0.3 millimeter a bit small for acrylics. I don't even have an answer for that, because I mean, you just thin the paint. I mean, like the needle size. I mean, like, unless the only time you are, at least in my experience and from what I've seen, the only time you worry about needle size is when you're doing fine work. But the Patriot 105 doesn't do fine work. You're not because that needle head is not designed for that. I use my Renegade Chrome for fine detail work, for fine lines and stuff like that. And I mean, the only time you're getting really, really finicky about fine lines is illustration. If you're drawing stuff, you really don't. Oftentimes, you don't need really fine needles on an airbrush in our miniature painting stuff for what like 99% of people are doing with the airbrush, who are just getting into airbrushing. Get the Patriot 105. It comes with a 0.5 needle. It might even come with another needle as well. It might come with a 0.4, 0.3. Because it can take either one. And it might come with it. Because I know, like, I think my Chrome came with extra needles. Got my home badger here. Hold on. Oh, jeez. Funko Pop fell over. Oh, no, I got my quick release here. No, I don't have my thing here. Do I? What's this? Oh, it's a spare nozzle. Yeah, this one here I have that comes with a spare nozzle. But yeah, this is my home brush. This is my home brush. And I picked this up. I got a high roller on it and everything. I picked this up and yeah. I've never used it. Oh, I gotta lube that up. She's set for a while. Yeah, I got the quick release on her. Yeah. So I just gotta... Did I even put that on my brush here? No, I didn't. I have all my airbrush shit here at home. I haven't airbrushed yet. Just haven't gotten around to it. Busy, man. Busy. Anywho. Yeah, so don't get caught up in... Crap, did I drop something? I did. Drop my nozzle. Don't get caught up, you know, in the whole this needle for that needle for this, and blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about it. You're just starting out. It's kind of like the argument for brushes. All right? Winsor Newton, Da Vinci, Citadel, Arby Painter. Doesn't matter when you're starting out. Doesn't matter. You know, what's more important is getting used to technique and such, and using your tool rather than, you know, brand names. It's not important. Don't get caught up in it, because all that's going to do is make you overthink things. And oh, am I using the right needle for the right PSI, and what mixture of paint, and am I doing this right? Just frickin' do it. Just frickin' do it. Just, God damn it, just get yourself some airbrush paint or thin your paint. Take Citadel colors, throw it in there, just thin it down a bit. Flows through the brush just fine. I've even used regular Citadel colors unthinned through a Patriot 105. And it flows. You just crank the PSI, but it flows. Does it flow well? Yeah, it flowed well enough. You know? I mean, again, it's those mind prisons. It's those mind prisons. What the hell's that word? What's that word? There's a word for it. Or an expression or something. People get caught up in these terminologies and these things, and all it does is it limits you. It limits you in what your creative potential can be. That's all that does. It's labels. It's labels on what you can potentially do. And it hinders you, and it breaks up your free thought on where you can go with an idea, and it stifles your genius. You know what I mean? Don't fall into labels. Don't be so damn caught up in what the name of this is and what particular brand that is, and that's all it is. People are trying to sell you shit. Don't worry about it. You know, just know the fundamentals. The fundamentals, the mindset. Yeah, the mindset, George. Yeah, it's just you know, it's all it is. You know, just know the fundamentals. You get good fundamentals down, everything becomes very simple. You know, acrylic paint versus lacquer-based paints versus, you know, enamels and latex. And, you know what I mean? Like, just know those fundamentals about the medium you're using, the tool you're using. This kind of brush, flat, you know, round and pointed and fan, and, you know what I mean? Like, airbrushing, 0.5 needle, what PSI I'm using, how thin the paint is. You know what I mean? Like, it's all it is, man. It's just, and from there, you just go. and unfortunately, a lot of times it's experience, and you can't teach experience. But I'm here to tell you that don't fall into those things. You know, those George One Track Mind. I don't know. You've said a bunch of things there, and wearing blinders, One Track Mind. Give George something, and he'll just run with it. Ben Ellis, can't be basics done well, I guess. Exactly. I mean, like, it's just, you know, there's good starting off points, but don't be limited by them. Don't be afraid to experiment. Again, we get back to that. We get back to experimenting. Just experiment once in a while. Don't be so damn caught up in, is this the way, the right way? Is this the way it's supposed to be? You know what I mean? You limit yourself when you do those things. Don't limit yourself. Anywho, if you are brand new to this hobby, want to show off what you're working on, need some help with the color scheme, send your questions to Kris@miniwargaming.com. Of course, if you're attending live, you can always ask them here. Myself and the monkeys, I answer. But otherwise, better place to answer to find everything is waythebrush.com. It is the central hub of everything. It has the links to the Discord, the Instagrams, the Twitter, and all the other crap and stuff like that. And of course, Way the Brush t-shirts. You can find yourself a Way the Brush t-shirt. I'm not actually wearing one today. I'm actually wearing Team Greenleaf because Adam's a good buddy, and you know I'm on Greenleaf's terrain. Greenleaf's terrain? No, Greenleaf's team. That's what I'm at. I'm on his team, and so should you. And so, yeah, Way the Brush t-shirts. They help the cause. They help help everything out, and they just help the cause. I mean, if you want to look like, a connoisseur of all that is good and holy in this world, and someone who knows what they're talking about, a Way the Brush t-shirt. It'll immediately elevate your status. Also, on waythebrush.com, you'll also find, of course, in the Way the Brush t-shirt, everybody who's purchased one, got to send me a picture of yourself, because I want to put it up in the shrine for all the monkeys to see, because I have the monkey shrine, which is dedicated to all you guys, because this show really wouldn't exist without you guys and your questions, and this show is always about you guys, and it's answering your questions and helping you guys and freeing your minds is really what this is. It's all about freeing your mind, because so many people limit themselves to this, and it's very disappointing sometimes. I hear people talk, and I see YouTube channels, and they're talking, they're regurgitating the same bullshit, and it's just, what I mean? Don't just show me something new. Give me something new. Be creative. Like, I see so many people, and they want to be artists. Well, show me something new. Give me a new solution to something. Be an artist. Show me something. And unless, of course, I'm wrong, and miniature painting isn't an art form, and it's just paint by numbers, in which case, maybe I'll just stop, because I've always hung on to the idea that this is an art. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe. Who knows? Anywho, waythebrush.com for less insightful information. But join us on Discord, because Discord, we're talking crazy crap there all the time. If you want to be entertained and listen to some people talk crazy crap, that's the only reason people go to zoos, right? They go watch the monkeys fling poo at each other and talk some craziness. That's what Discord is. That's what the Discord is. It's everybody a chance to fling poo at each other. Oh man. So yeah, ending spiel, right? So of course, also on waythebrush.com is the links to the Patreon supporters. Always a big thank you to them, because again, without them, a lot of these upgrades and improvements and stuff like that in this show and on my channel and everything, as always, it's due to them. It's due to their support, and they've been a great help to this, making this better. And so if you consider supporting, thank you very much. Of course, liking, commenting, and subscribing and sharing, all that helps as well. So if you don't feel like throwing monetary value at things, but want to help support, by all means, like and share, comment, subscribe. Do it all the usual YouTube and Twitch things. Even Twitch should do, I don't know if they're sharing on Twitch, but either way. It's probably my longest outro ever because I'm trying to struggle with what the hell I'm talking about. Oh, and of course, big thanks to Guymere Alfer, aka Carl, aka Beer and Blood Bowl, for taking the time to create the email jingles that we all know and love. Big thanks to him. If you love yourself some beer and some Blood Bowl, check him out. It's always fun. I check him out as often as I can, and yeah, it's good times. I think I'm done. No other comments, right? The Gim. Deep Thoughts by Kris. Yeah. Eric Fountain. Paint by number is an art form. Paint by number is an art form, really. It is an art form. I would differ on that. I would disagree. I would respectfully disagree. It's not an art form. It's just following directions. You know? How, like, I'm afraid I'm afraid I would have to ask you to clarify and back that statement up, because I would disagree. Ben, many thanks, Kris. Great show. Yeah, even though I kind of trailed off there near the end. Anywho, we're done. Yeah, we're done. Take care of your brushes. They'll take care of you. And I will see you guys next week in another exciting episode of Way of the Brush. Maybe. Unless, of course, you guys don't send me any more emails, and then I'm not going to do a show because, you know, I'm not answering any questions. Go Starman as the show ends. As the show ends, happy trails. Howdy ho. Why are you still here? Go. Go home. Anyway, see y'all later. Go enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Go paint something. Go spend some time with the family. Maybe at work. Maybe go do your job before you get fired and can't afford your models anymore. Either way, go do something. Go be somebody. That's terrible advice.